But you know what? God's put them on my heart for a reason. Just like he put it on my heart to go get that. You know what? It hurts to go to the Y. I'm in pain now. The very first day, 2 days after the first day, I couldn't, I told him if I got pulled over, I'd been in serious trouble. If they said they would give me one of those tests where I had to touch my nose, because I could do this. And then if I wanted to go all the way to the nose, I could go like that. That's as far as it would go. I have pain. It's work. I had to sweat. And here's the thing. You know, just because Dr. Sean the first time made me sore, I still showed up the second time. Even though I know he's going to abuse me again. And again. And then he sucked his wife on me. Because he was gone one day. Introduced me to a new thing. But here's the thing. Maybe that's the same thing that's been happening to you. Maybe just in a different way. Maybe in your lifestyle, in your situation, your circumstance may be totally different than mine. Maybe it is a spiritual thing. Maybe it is a relationship thing. Maybe there's an issue, grumpy old thing, that you're dealing with that's making you grumpy. Maybe there's stuff going on the inside of you you just don't like, and you haven't dealt with it. Procrastination, it'll kill you. Now, listen, it's pretty obvious what my problem was. But see, sometimes you hide yours. Yours may not be as apparent. Mine sticks out in front of me. It goes, it's there before I get there, so to speak. Not for long. But I want you to understand this. I want you to understand this, is that I believe God has got a destiny for New Life Christian Center. I believe it's going to require us to do more than we've done before. I believe that coming to church and having this relationship with God is only a training session for eternity. We plan a whole lot for our number of years here. We put a lot of time and effort into that, and we forget that our spirit is still going to be alive somewhere for eternity. And so if I become a little brazen, a little bold, forgive me, but I love you. I love you. And I believe God's got some things for you. And it's just like if you went to boot camp. How many ever went to boot camp? Okay, let me ask Tom. Tom. Anytime when you went to boot camp, the first few days, did you like it? No. Did you get mad at the DI? Yeah, you had words for him, didn't you? Yeah, you had some where you can't say them now. In fact, you probably said, that's it, I quit. But you could have said it. It wouldn't have happened. We've got a young man in boot camp right now. We'll have to have him tell new stories. We got all the old stories covered. But I want to tell you something. This is like boot camp. This life we're living now is kind of like training. It's readying us for our eternity. Really. And so and forgive me, but at the same time, don't. I love you. And number one, I got a responsibility to tell you the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts, just like going to the Y hurts. But you know what? I have to suck it up sometimes. I have to suck it up when I go to the Y. I don't look like all them other guys. Okay? I ran into Nate Tovey. Nate, raise your hand over at the Y the other day. I said, Nate, what are you doing in here, man? I said, you look pretty buff. What are you coming to the Y for? He says, man, it's my job. I said, what do you mean your job? He says, in the spring and in the summer and fall, he says, I'm a bricklayer and cement finisher. Man, if I don't get in here and start working out now, I'm not going to be ready. Are you catching the drift there? And so I appreciated him. I mean, he didn't realize how I would turn that into this thought right here. But I appreciated him. He didn't have to go do that. He can just show up to work, in April or whenever he starts and say, hey, I'm here. And then, 3 days later, he's, drinking. Can't keep up with everybody else. I don't want to be lagging behind. I want to stay up with everybody else. In fact, I'd like to be ahead. How about you? Well, hopefully I've told on myself enough today. But I want you to hear my heart. I want you to hear my heart. I want you to understand this. The longer you put things off, the more difficult it's going to be. Today, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a step of faith. I want you to dare to believe God, because God's going to give you the strength that you need to deal with it. He is. He's doing that for me. He's doing that for me. If He does it for me, man, I know He'll do it for you. He will. Well, you're going to say, how do I know when it's the right time to do it? How do I know when I'm supposed to go do it? Well, when He starts talking to you about it, that's the time you're supposed to go do it. Maybe it's not some of these others. Maybe you got some unforgiveness for somebody. Somebody you have chosen not to forgive, or maybe you need to go ask forgiveness of. Maybe that's holding you back in some areas. Procrastination will kill us. It's going to kill us if we don't deal with it. Here, it's all in the way that you really see your life. First of all, the Apostle Paul said, I've learned how to be content in every situation. That means that you have to quit looking at what's wrong in your life all the time. You need to start looking at what's right. Because there's a lot right, And so you're not very convinced of it. So you need to quit complaining about what you don't have and begin to thank God for what you do have. Because you got things. You may not have everything you want, but you still have a lot of things that you don't even think about sometimes. And you need to thank God for what you have. I believe it's God's grace that I'm still alive in my own life. As far as the way I've treated my body, it's God's grace. Oh, my goodness. Every day that you live negatively, every unhappy day that you have, and you listen to me, every unhappy day, every grumpy day you have is a day you've wasted. Time is very important. You know that. We all know that. I know your time is important. My time is important. There may be time when life seems to be too much to handle, and there's been times for me when it's just been one thing too many. Or maybe there's not been enough hours in the day. Anybody been like that? Anybody care to admit that in your life? You just been in those situations where your day's just not got enough hours in it. So here's what I'd like to do today. I'm going to use a little visual aid here if I can. You like visual aids? Let me ask you a question. A bunch of you guys just said, oh man, golf balls. What do we get to do with that? I want to ask you a question. Is that full? You can put more golf balls in there? It's just full of golf balls, isn't it? All right, full of golf balls. Let me ask you a question. Let me do something here. That's full, right? I can just hear the people on the CD. What is he doing? I'm pouring little pebbles into a jar with golf balls is what I'm doing. Oh man, there's still more room. I can put more in there. Is that full? Well, it's full of rocks and golf balls, isn't it? Can you get